Welcome to one more video where I will be talking about solving more quadratic equations. And in this case, we can give you some functions, some equations. As you can see, they include not only x and y's, but also w's. So let's see what is going on here. So for this first example, we have, let's move everything to one side. 4w squared plus 9w plus 2 equals 0. I just moved everything to the left-hand side. I like it this way more. So negative 9w and minus 2 became positive. This is a quadratic equation, so I want to write down and remind you the formula for the quadratic equation formula. Ax squared plus bx plus c equals, this is how I remember it, minus b plus minus a square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Two roots are coming from plus and minus sign. Sometimes they will be the same, two roots, then the root is single. Sometimes there will be no roots at all. So let's use this formula, and I will write down w1 and 2. What is a, b, and c in this case? A is 4, b is 9, c is 2. So I will have minus 9, because minus b, plus minus a square root. Please put parentheses, because this will help you to avoid mistakes with negative signs. In this case, it's not negative, but still, I always recommend to put parentheses in this moment. So I have b squared. B squared is 9 squared, minus 4 is part of the formula. A is 4, C is 2, all over 2a, that's 2 times 4. Carefully calculating everything, minus 10 plus minus, a square root of 81 minus 32, all over 8. Hopefully, whatever is inside of the square root is approachable number, and indeed it is 49. The square root of 49 is 7. So we're going to have minus 9 plus minus 7 all over 8. At this moment, I personally like going into two answers right now, w1 and w2. Just like you saw, I wrote down x1 and x2. The order doesn't matter, but usually I start with the plus and then with the minus. So first root w1 is minus 9 plus 7 over 8. The second one is minus 9 minus 7 over 8. The first one, calculated carefully, becomes minus 1/4, and the second one becomes minus 2, and those are two roots. Very nice. Now, one more example here, and in this case we have n. So again, let's distribute everything you see in front of you and move everything to the left hand side. So for n plus 4 squared, I will use a square of some formula. Square of some formula tells me square of the first term, that's n squared. Double product of the first term and the second term, that's 2n times 4. Plus square the second term, that's plus 16, because 4 squared. Everything else, just keep it as it is. Now move everything to the left hand side. So I will subtract 2n squared plus 14n plus 24. But in this case, I actually recommend to use coloring and to collect terms. So in red color, I underline n squared and 2n squared on both sides. N squared minus 2n squared becomes minus n squared. Then, what is 2 times n times 4? That becomes 8n. 8n I underlined with green, and 14n I underlined with green color. So 8n minus 14n becomes 6n. And finally, pink color or purple, 16 minus 24 is minus 8 equals to 0. What should I do now? I see it's a quadratic equation, but I don't like the negative sign, so we'll divide by negative sign. N squared plus 6n plus 8 equals to 0. Now, there are two ways to solve this system. Either you use quadratic formula, like I did in the previous example, or you use a little theorem I introduced in a different video. And that theorem, called Vieta theorem, tells you that two roots of these quadratic equations, if they multiplied by each other, they will give you c, which is 8. But if you add them together, they will give you minus b. Since b is 6, then it's going to be minus 6. It becomes like a little puzzle, like a little game. What are these two numbers? I usually start with the product. 8 shows up from 8 and 1 when you multiply them. 8 times 1 is 8. Maybe 4 and 2. And indeed 4 and 2 have connections with 6. If you add 4 and 2, it gives you 6. So I have negative 6. That means probably I should have both negative 4 and 2. Negative 4 and negative 2. Well, indeed, let's check. If the first, so 4 and 2, if both are negative, let's check that we have everything we need. And 1 times n2 is minus 4 times minus 2, indeed is plus 8. Minus 4 and minus 2, when you add them together, gives you indeed minus 6. So those are our roots. Well, you also can just use quadratic equation formula like we did before, and I do recommend you to use this method if you just blank out during the test, because it always works. It's just longer, like you will see right now how much writing it will take. It's much longer than to use the Vieta theorem I just did. So it depends on your skills. If you believe you can do the way I just did, I do recommend it. If you blank out, use quadratic equation formula. Minus b for the my equation will be minus 6, plus minus a square root, put parentheses, b squared is 6 squared, minus 4, that's part of the formula, ac, that's 1 and 8, all over 2a. Simplifying the calculations inside of the square root, we have 36 minus 32, which gives me 4 inside of the square root, and I have 2 roots, minus 6 plus 2 over 2, and minus 6 minus 2 over 2. What these roots are? These roots become minus 2 and minus 4, just like we already knew before, so that's not a new information here at all. And this way, I showed you how to solve the quadratic equation 2 different ways. Choose the fastest one if you can do it. That's the one with which I call a puzzle, or basically it's Vieta theorem. And choose the quadratic formula. So this is my Vieta theorem. I'm using it like that, called Vieta theorem. And choose quadratic equation formula if you just don't feel comfortable with the theorem, or you just get stressed and you don't remember what to do. You definitely remember the quadratic equation formula. Here it is. Remember it pretty well, and it will save your life many times during the math test, and also in your homework, of course. Hopefully it was helpful for you to review some quadratic equations. And please practice more, and see you next time.